So hello, our amazing viewers. Welcoming you back again to the next interesting episode of SYNLAB Podcast. Today we're discussing again, continuing our conversation on diabetes. And it's been, quite revealing, what we've discussed. Some of the easy ways to identify. I mean, I was marveled when Dr. Sodipo mentioned the measurements. It's an easy peasy way to figure it out. I'm going to my tailor today to get that sorted. And Dr. Eniola here has also been giving us loads and tips. So let's delve right in, to continue the conversation. Yes, we are discussing diabetes, and the first episode we've discussed around, what could predispose one, what does it mean, and the different types. And let's look again at symptoms, because I feel like diabetes is one thing that people who feel like they don't take a lot of sugar, or they don't take a lot, or they're not really in the the predisposition range that they've defined in their heads. Okay, can we talk about the less subtle symptoms that people should watch out for? Okay, for diabetes.
Yeah, thank you, Judith. I think it's that's something that people are always talking about. But
Yes.
The first thing we need to know is, for example, it could be asymptomatic.
Wow.
Unfortunately, people could present with just the complications, especially when you're dealing with those that have the type 2, the older people.
Yeah.
Somebody could just present and say, I can't see very well. That could just be the reason for, going to the hospital. And it's when the test is done for them. Somebody could present with, I think I have a poor erection. Somebody could present with, I think in Nigeria we call it baja. I don't know. Every dialect has their own way of
tingling in the
extreme. Tingling,
okay,
painful
those
sensations.
I thought it was a sign of money. I thought they said it's a sign that money is about.
I wish that was the sign.
Okay, that tingling sensation at the extreme.
Especially in the feet, that could just suggest some neuropathy. I'm not saying everybody that has it has.
Yes,
they could actually have a lot of money. That could be the reason.
So,
so that tingling sensation could be there.
Yes.
So people could present with complications. So it could be asymptomatic, and that's one of the problems, especially with the type 2. But apart from that, some of the signs that we watch out for, which are commoner in type 1, but could also occur in type 2, include weight loss. People could be losing a lot of weight because the body is breaking down all the stores. There's so much glucose in the body, but it's not getting to where it's needed. So you have a situation where
losing
somebody
weight
is suffering, in the midst of
So it's not like
plenty.
God is helping you burn your calories.
Nah, the person is the person could be losing a lot of weight, and another thing could be urinating frequently. So when people notice that they are urinating and large volumes of urine, they wake up 4 or 5 times to go and urinate. And another thing that we see sometimes is people falling ill regularly, and this is commoner, especially in type 1. I'm just going to give us a quick story.
Yeah.
There was a young male that presented to the hospital with the mom. They'd seen so many doctors, seen everybody, been doing tests, always on admission, malaria, typhoid. So in the process, while they were there, because we have a policy that we just test, we try to do a random or a fasting blood glucose test. And that was how, just coincidentally, we just tested, and we got a sugar level of about 300 milligrams per day. And everybody was stunned that, so this is what had been causing the problem.
All the problem.
So we're having, especially in the emergency room, some of the advice that they are giving is when people present, they're always ill, let's just do a sugar test. Because sometimes, as you said, it could be asymptomatic. You may not think along that line. There may not be a classical thing. So those are some of the signs, and the symptoms that could occur.
I mean, this is really shocking, and it's busting all the myths that we have. So, I mean, especially when people are losing weight rapidly, you might be thinking that, your calories are burning by the special ways of food,
or somebody has an infection. I know, HIV, then everybody had that picture, which is not even the case nowadays. So, it's something that we just need to think of and say, could we just do a glucose check?
I think this is something that, and I really hope our subscribers are watching and following this conversation. And then, Doctor, I appreciate, before we started this conversation, there was something we were discussing earlier about family predisposition, and you said something interesting, which I would like us to reiterate here. You said, even though there's a family history, you can break the circle. Yes. So can we discuss a bit more about, family history? Of course, there are people that have the perpetual scare, that, because it's in the family, regardless of what I do, is going to catch up with me sometime. What do you have to say about that?
Oh, thank you for that. Diabetes has a lot of of things to do with genetics.
Yes.
But like I mentioned before, that there's something called the epigenetics, meaning that you can actually modify, even though you have a predisposition towards it, you can actually modify what you eventually come up with. Yeah. So, and how do you do that? Early testing, screening. Yes, it's something that could help you to pick up on time, and what are the interventions I could put in place specifically about your lifestyle. A lot of things that happen that really we find commonly now is that diets are changing. The way people eat now is not what used to be. Before. So, like he said before, we have a lot of fast foods available to you.
Yes,
you have
and they are easy and affordable.
So because you actually have a predisposition already, it's just like you already have something laid down. So you're just trying to set a pace, add something on it. So you make it more pronounced. So when you know that you have this, you can take steps that will reduce your tendency of eventually coming down with it, even though you have that family history.
Yes.
But you need to take personal steps by yourself to be able to prevent it from happening. Yeah.
I mean, this is really interesting. And Dr. Sodipo, we discussed briefly about diabetes in pregnancy. And before we finish this episode, I would like us to, zoom in on that. Because, I mean, I can't remember through my course of pregnancy, maybe it's part of my routine testing, but I can't remember it being discussed as something that is likely to happen. Okay, can we talk about that for a bit?
Yeah. So what we've seen is that a number of times it's missed. But one of the advice that is now being given, we call them guidelines to medical practitioners, is number one, we shouldn't wait for signs or symptoms.
Okay.
Once the person, the pregnant woman, is more than 20 weeks of pregnancy, we normally do what we call a glucose challenge test, where a lot of big hospitals do it now, and they bring in the mother, give some glucose, test before giving, and an hour and 2 hours after, and where we see a rise, because there are some levels, diagnostic levels, that let us know. But really? Apart from even testing, especially for women that have had babies in the past, one of the things that we tend to ask, did you have a big baby? So when you have a situation where somebody said,
baby.
I had a bouncing baby, very big, that is a
really
sign,
bouncing baby.
Yeah, that you need to know that there could have been diabetes there. Sometimes not even diagnosed, especially when 4 kilograms, 4.5.
Sometimes needing intervention.
Exactly. Maybe they had to do a cesarean section because of that, or there were even some challenges with trying to do a vaginal delivery. So those are some of the signs. So it's something that could easily be missed. And, as has been mentioned, it could also predispose that. The reason why it's important, apart from the baby, is even for the mother. So they know, there's an increased risk of that mother developing diabetes. And even for the baby themselves, there are precautions that need to be taken. I mean, we've seen situations where some babies die soon after delivery. People are wondering what really went wrong.
Yeah.
And it's simply because maybe the mother had, a high blood glucose, the baby was already used to so much glucose in the body. When the baby is born, the baby was not giving glucose on time or breastfed on time, develops a low blood glucose. So I think now it's reducing because of increased awareness, but it's something that has become part of the routine antenatal. So it's not just doing the urine test. We also need to do the blood glucose test.
And then when the woman puts to bed, does the diabetes just go with the pregnancy?
Again, that's at that point it goes, because it was caused by the pregnancy.
Wow.
But there's a risk in subsequent pregnancies. There's a risk of the mother developing it later. So that's lifelong, Dr. Afolabi just mentioned the whole epigenetics. So this is like already a risk. So and that risk has been passed on to both baby and mommy. So you need to continue.
I mean, this is eye-opening. And then quickly, let's discuss again hypertension, because obviously it feels like a lot of people are either down with diabetes and hypertension and all of those. You talked about, I think Dr. Sodipo talked about it, but from a lifestyle and wellness perspective, hypertension and the risk of developing diabetes as well. Can you discuss that? And are there things that people who have hypertension right now can do differently to ensure that they are not necessarily exposed?
Okay. Yes. And I would say again, diabetes and hypertension are actually lifestyle-related diseases. Okay. And what do I mean by that? A lot of people who have it, who have diabetes, who have hypertension, if you look at their lifestyle, the way they live, what you do on a daily basis actually culminates in them coming down with that. So when you have somebody who has diabetes, there's a high risk, or there are high chances that person could also have hypertension. You mentioned earlier that it could affect the vessels. The vessels are actually elastic. Sometimes because of all this, the changes in the sugar level and the way it changes the way the vessels are. It could make them non-elastic and affect pressure, and you have hypertension coming up and other cardiovascular diseases coming up also. So in a way, it may come up together. So when you are trying to screen for diabetes, you should also find out, so is this patient hypertensive? Because eventually, even when you're managing hypertension, diabetes also, you're also trying to look out to be sure that the blood pressure in such individuals are also well controlled, because it has a way of also affecting management.
This is really eye-opening, because before now the conversation all narrowed down to sugar.
Yeah,
cut down sugar, don't take soda so that you don't, so there's a lot to learn from here. So our amazing subscribers and the ones who have not subscribed, we encourage you to like, subscribe, and comment. We would like to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening in on this episode. We look forward to having you on the next episode. Thank you.